Take a close look at the rusty brace in my hand. There is no battery, cord, or engine, yet this tool bored the holes that held cabins, gates, wagons, and barns together for generations. An Appalachian farm did not lack power. It gathered power from a farmer's shoulders, a mule's steady walk, a water wheel, a heavy flywheel, or wind moving through an open barn door. The power source changed, but the work still had to be done. These were not crude substitutes for machinery. Each solved a problem where fields were steep, roads poor, cash scarce, and replacement parts distant. Some came from local smiths, others from factories and mail-order catalogs. Most could be sharpened, rehandled, tightened, or rebuilt at home. Here are 25 forgotten Appalachian tools that cleared land, raised buildings, planted crops, and processed harvests without gasoline. Number 25 is the brush hook. It resembles an axe whose blade has been bent into a wicked curve. It was made for growth. An ordinary axe handled poorly briars, saplings, vines, and woody brush along a fence row. The curve caught a stem instead of glancing away. One swing could open a path through a thicket or reclaim the edge of a field. Today, its hooked iron is often mistaken for part of a harvesting machine. Put it on a long ash or hickory handle, however, and it becomes a hand-powered clearing machine. Number 24 is the grubbing mattock. Appalachian ground rarely surrendered without an argument. After a tree fell, roots and stones remained beneath the soil, waiting to stop a plow. A mattock put two answers on one head, an adze-like blade for chopping roots, and a pick or narrow cutter for breaking hard earth and prying stones. Its weight did much of the work if the user let the head fall in a controlled arc. A polished eye, mushroomed end, and replacement handle worn smooth can show that an old mattock worked for decades before becoming barn decoration. Number 23 is the crosscut saw, or in its longer form, the two-man saw. Before chainsaws, this ribbon of steel felled trees and cut logs to length. Cutter teeth severed fibers while rakers cleared wood from the kerf. On a properly filed saw, each person pulled in turn. Pushing could buckle the blade. That rhythm explains the nickname misery whip, though a skilled pair made it sing. Even a rusted tooth pattern can reveal softwood, hardwood, felling, or bucking work. Number 22 is an inseparable team, the wedge and maul. Iron wedges or wooden gluts were driven into a log along the grain. The dense hardwood maul resembled a short, heavy club, not a modern splitting axe. A wedge converted downward force into outward pressure, and several in sequence let one person open a log far larger than he could lift. Imagine a dull blow, a deep crack, then chestnut or oak dividing where its grain permitted. Number 21 is the broad axe. Do not confuse it with the narrower axe used to fell a tree. A traditional American broad axe had a wide, squarish head, often sharpened on one side, and an offset handle that protected the user's knuckles. After a log was scored, the hewer walked beside it and cut away the rounded outside until a flat face appeared. 4 faces turned a tree into a building timber without a sawmill. Right, and left-handed axes were shaped differently. The ripples on old cabin beams are not careless damage, they are this blade's signature. Number 20 is the adze. Its edge sits across the handle so the user chopped downward while standing over or beside the wood. After a broad axe did the rough hewing, the adze removed high spots and smoothed puncheon floorboards, beams, and planks. It demanded judgment. Too shallow a stroke scraped, too deep a stroke buried the edge and endangered the worker's feet. On an old hand-hewn floor, shallow scallops may remain long after the builder is forgotten. They are the closest thing he left to a fingerprint. Number 19 is the froe. This odd L-shaped iron blade rived shingles, clapboards, laths, barrel staves, and other straight-grain pieces. A wooden maul drove it into the end of a block. The worker then twisted the upright handle, steering the split through the grain. Here is what surprises many collectors. A froe should not have a razor edge. It separated fibers rather than slicing across them, and an edge too sharp could wander away from the intended split. In practiced hands, one block of white oak became a stack of shingles with almost no wasted wood. Number 18 is the draw knife, usually paired with a shaving horse. Its two-handled blade is pulled toward the body, while foot pressure clamps the wood in the bench. It shaped axe handles, rake teeth, stool legs, wheel spokes, shingles, and pegs. A machine removes wood whether the grain agrees or not. A draw knife talks through the hands. Work against the grain and it digs in. Follow it, and a clean shaving curls away. That feedback let a farmer shape a handle to fit both the iron head and his grip. Number 17 is the brace and bit the tool in my hand. The brace is the cranked frame. The bit locks into its chuck. One hand presses the top pad while the other turns the crank. Auger bits pull themselves into wood with a screw point and clear chips as they bore. Slower than an electric drill, it offered remarkable torque and control. Barn timbers were locked together with mortise and tenon joints and wooden pins. A brace bored those pinholes a mile from the nearest road because its only power cord was the arm turning it. Number 16 is the cant hook and its close relative, the peavey. Both use a swinging metal hook to grip and roll logs, giving one person leverage over timber weighing hundreds of pounds. A peavey has a pointed spike at the handle's end. A cant hook usually has a blunt toe. Loggers use them to turn a trunk for sawing, free a jam, or position a log on a skid. They seem simple until the hook bites. Then the long handle changes a modest pull into enough turning force to move what bare hands could never persuade. Number 15 is the hand post hole auger. A fence across mountain ground might need hundreds of holes, and a shovel wasted soil and strength. The auger carried a spiral or scoop-like cutter below a long shaft with handles across the top. The farmer twisted it into the earth, lifted the trapped soil, cleared the cutter, and repeated. Narrow holes required less backfilling and held posts firmly. Stone could stop the job cold, which is why an iron bar often traveled beside it. A fence line was not one tool's achievement, but a sequence of specialized tools used in order. Number 14 is the bull-tongue plow, a name rooted in Appalachian speech and literature. Its long, narrow point opened a shallow furrow, while disturbing less soil than a broad turning plow. That mattered on irregular plots filled with roots and rock outcrops. A horse or mule pulled while the farmer guided the handles around obstacles. It did not leave the wide, smooth field of a modern tractor. It made a usable row wherever the mountain allowed one. In rough country, delicacy could be worth more than brute power. Number 13 is the hand hoe. It may be the least mysterious object here, but on a corn-based mountain farm, it was among the most important. A hoe opened hills, covered seed, cut weeds, pulled earth around plants, and reached places a horse-drawn implement could not. The iron blade was valuable. A local wood handle could be replaced. Old blades are often narrow and uneven after years of sharpening. That missing metal is a record of labor. Each fraction of an inch surrendered to soil, stones, weeds, and the grindstone. Number 12 is the grain cradle, one of the strangest tools ever mistaken for a broken rake. It is a scythe fitted with long wooden fingers. As the blade cut wheat, rye, oats, or buckwheat, those fingers caught the stalks and laid them down with their heads aligned, ready to gather and bind into sheaves. It remained useful on rough hills, where a large reaper was costly or awkward. A good cradler did not attack with random swings. He moved in a measured arc, leaving one organized bundle after another, as if the field had been combed. Number 11 is the ordinary scythe. Without cradle fingers, it mainly mowed grass and hay. The curved blade traveled nearly parallel to the ground in a sweep, not a downward chop. Efficiency came from sharpness, posture, and rhythm rather than force. The blade needed frequent honing in the field and occasional peening or grinding. A poorly fitted snath, the long bent handle, punished the back. A well-fitted one turned the body into a quiet engine, cutting a broad strip with each sweep while the feet advanced only inches. Number 10 is the wooden hay rake. Before steel spring-tooth rakes became common, farmers gathered hay with wide wooden rakes whose teeth could be carved and replaced at home. Their width pulled loose hay into windrows without adding much weight. A missing tooth was not a reason to order another rake. It meant an evening repair with a draw knife and tough wood. Notice how the tools connect. The draw knife made the rake gathered hay, the hay fed the animal, and the animal pulled the plow. The farm was a system. Number 9 is the harpoon hay fork, named for its weapon-like shape. Its barbed fork entered a wagon load of loose hay. A rope ran through barn pulleys, and a horse or mule pulled the load up a track toward the loft. A trip rope released it exactly where the farmer wanted. An animal on the ground could lift hay above a man's head without an engine. Surviving forks often hang from rafters without ropes or pulleys, making their purpose easy to miss. Number 8 is the grain flail. It had a long handle joined by leather or a flexible link to a shorter, striking piece. The farmer swung it over dried grain spread on the barn floor. Its joint let the beater land flatter than a rigid club, knocking kernels loose while reducing crushing. Threshing was dusty, repetitive work, and timing mattered when two people flailed together. The tool looks almost too simple to need a name, but until grain was threshed, a beautiful harvest remained stalks and heads instead of food. Number 7 is the winnowing basket, later challenged by the hand-cranked fanning mill. Threshing freed the kernels but left husks, dust, and broken straw. With a basket, the mixture was tossed, so a breeze carried off light chaff while heavier grain fell back. A fanning mill brought that breeze indoors. A crank drove screens and a fan, shaking grain as air removed debris. Neither created grain. Each improved it through separation. Sorting by weight and size remains hidden inside much more complicated modern equipment. Number 6 is the hand-cranked corn sheller. Corn fed Appalachian families and livestock, but dried kernels still had to be stripped from the cob. Early shellers used toothed wheels or iron surfaces to pull an ear through as the operator turned a crank. Some took one ear at a time, yet they were a major improvement over shelling every cob by hand. The empty cob dropped one way and kernels fell below. If you find a cast iron box with a crank, feed opening, and aggressive teeth, do not assume it is a grinder. It may be a corn harvest, frozen in machinery. Number 5 is the flax hackle, an easy tool to misidentify. It looks like long iron spikes rising through a board. After flax was retted and broken, its fibers were drawn through the teeth to remove short material and align the long strands used for linen. The work turned a crop into thread and cloth. A hackle may resemble a trap, but it prepared textiles, and wear between its spikes can reveal years of fiber pulled through by hand. Number 4 is the pair of spring sheep shears. They resemble oversized scissors made from one bent strip of steel, whose spring opened the blades after each cut. One hand compressed them while the other controlled the fleece and guarded the animal's skin. There was no motor to overheat, no cord to tangle, and almost nothing the farmer or local smith could not sharpen. Their outline changed little because the design already answered the job. Still, shearing was not easy. Clean work required calm handling, sharp edges, and hundreds of practice squeezes. Number 3 is the treadle grindstone. Every edge dulled, so the farm needed one tool to maintain the others. A sandstone wheel turned by treadle, crank, or helper. Water cooled the edge, carried away grit, and kept heat from spoiling the steel as the operator held a steady angle. The The stone harvested no crop and raised no wall, yet a blunt axe, scythe, hoe, or draw knife could double the work. This was the farm's maintenance department, powered by a leg and paid for in patience. Number 2 is the screw cider press. Mountain orchards could produce more apples than a family could eat before spoilage. Apples were crushed into pulp, then wrapped or layered beneath heavy pressing surfaces. Turning a large screw converted modest human force into tremendous pressure, driving juice into a trough below. The screw moved slowly, and that was its advantage. Pressure rose under control without tearing the wooden frame apart. Cider pressing was often shared work, and it changed a perishable harvest into something that could be consumed, fermented, traded, or preserved. Number 1 is the sorghum cane mill, because it reveals the truth behind the words "no engine." This machine still needed serious power. Stalks fed between iron rollers while a horse or mule walked in a circle, turning a sweep connected to the mill. The rollers crushed the cane and released green juice. That juice was strained and boiled in a shallow pan until water escaped and thick syrup remained. The mill converted an animal's steady walk into crushing force, while fire performed the concentration. Muscle, leverage, gears, and heat made a production line without gasoline or electricity.